My name is Carol.
I'm Carla.
My name is John.
And we are
Team Ice Bear.
For our Engineering 6 project, we chose to do the card game Blackjack and programmed it using Matlab.
In this video, we will explain the code behind it and how it works. Hi, I'm Carla, and I'm going to talk about the main menu. So for the main menu, it was pretty simple. We just used the GUIs for the buttons right here. This is just a simple picture that was from the internet that we just attached to the screen. Here we have a button that takes you to the info about the game, and it tells you welcome to the Blackjack game made by Team Ice Bear, and it tells you all the instructions on how to play the game. And then you can just return with the back button right here, use the GUI also, and it takes you back to the main screen. So for the instructions, we created the title here saying in app info text label value, we just set it to welcome to Blackjack game of Ice Bear, as you can see here. And then in another text value label, we labeled it we just included all the instructions in a single line, which is very long. So that's just basically all of this, and then we just click back and it takes you back to the main menu. So here when you press play, the play button is just under the function that runs the card game, and since they're all in the same folder, when you run it, it just opens up the card game automatically.
Hello, I am John from Ice Bear, and I made the main part of the working card game. Here's all the properties I made. How the cards work is that you give each card that you start with a number, random to 13 because that's how many there are from ace to king. And then you give the dealer 1, 2. So this is an array corresponding to all the pictures that we're gonna have possible for the suits, because every time you get a card, it's gonna say you're gonna get a suit 1 through 4 and then random integer 1 through 4, and then it's gonna correspond to one of these 4, and then it's gonna place it. You're gonna have an empty image slot here, and whatever you pull out, it's gonna go here, here, here. And then the random number to 13, if you get something like a 11, it'll display a J here. So this is at the end of the program, we're gonna have a place that says if you wanna play again, yes or no. And then if you play again, this variable or this property app, not the first time, equals 1. If this is true, it's gonna reset everything from like a used up gaming board to what it wants to be at the beginning. This is the betting portion. So we have called this function betting function right here, which is betting function right here. And so on this, we're gonna have a little slider appear. You're gonna be able to adjust how much you wanna bet. If you win, you get that much back. If you lose, you don't get it. This is after it's just gonna delete everything it made. So when you run the game, this is just ensuring everything's supposed to look up like how it's supposed to at that moment in the game, anytime you see a big giant list like that. This is just corresponding your card number to its card value. If you get a card number greater than 13, because 10 to 13 is a 10, jack, queen, and king, just gonna say its card value is 10. If it's under that, it's just whatever it is. This is to make sure when you get a face card, it's gonna display the correct thing, or when you get an ace, it's gonna display the correct thing. Otherwise, it's just gonna display the number. See, this was a card number 1. It was under 10, so its card value was 1. And it displays an ace because it's 1, and this is just the number it was because it's not above 10 or it's not 1. Dealer startup, this is going to be the same way that the player starts their hand, but as you can see here, when it starts up, they have a face down card and a face up card. The values stored under this card are stored in the game right now, but the player doesn't see them yet. This is determining if you have blackjack or not. This is important for in the end game when the game finishes to know if you won or not. So this evaluates if you have an ace and a 10 value card. This does it for the dealer in the end game, determining if you get your money back or not. And then if the player has blackjack, it's going to end their turn automatically and go to the dealer's turn. And it's going to say, okay, you have blackjack. And this right here is if you have an ace right here, you're gonna choose if your value is 1 or 11, because in blackjack an ace can be valued at 1 or 11, so that's to ensure that you have the choice to do that. When you hit, there's going to be a space opening up right here, because that's invisible before. Every spot here has one of these blank cards that whenever it needs to be triggered, it turns on, and then it's going to store all these data points and update your hand value and everything it needs to do, and do the same logic it needs to determine what to display and everything. And because you can't bust when you have on your initial hand, so if you bust, it's going to be evaluated every time you draw a card, because that's the only time it can be evaluated. So if your hand value is over 21, it's going to say that you bust. It's going to disable the hit button and the stay button, and it's going to store a value again for later. Getting blackjack or busting triggers the same function as pushing the stay button, because that's in essence the same thing. It begins the dealer's turn, and this is just all the logic for the dealer. If their hand's under 17, they're going to hit till they're 17, and it's going to be the same type of stuff for the player. Okay, so if the player busts, winner text is this, which is going to display later. Player 1 is 0, that's for determining if they won money or not.
Hi, my name is Carol from the team Ice Bear, and I was in charge of animations and sound effects. So our animations are at the end of the game when you win or lose. So this is the fireworks GIF that we found online. And specifically for this one, we had to separate it into separate frames using another software. As for the texts, I made this on Paint and rotated the text, and same with this part. So here's the design view, and I put like little image squares here, and this is where the Great Job and Sorry are, so I put them on top of each other. And then for this one, this is the fireworks GIF. So under the code that John wrote, when the player wins, this is what I wrote. In the startup function, it's apps fireworks visible equals off and Great Job visible equals off. So these two appear when the player wins. And as I said, when I separated each firework GIF frame, I saved each frame and used this code. And for the Great Job, I saved each picture that is rotated, and I used this. And using pause, it causes it to move continuously, really quickly, animating it. And when the player loses, the sorry text rotates, and I use the same idea. And when the player wins, the sound turns on using this, and this is just a built-in sound that Matlab has. So this is the menu file. We run it, press play, or here's the info. Press play, which takes us to the card game. You can bet a certain amount. Let's bet 5. So we can choose our ace value from either 1 or 11. Let's choose 11 to get 20. I have either the option of hitting or staying, and I'm going to stay. Because both the dealer and the person has the same hand value, it's push, and we can play again. Again, this is what happens when you bust and the dealer wins. So that's what happens when you win, and then if you press no, it closes this window, and then you are back at the blackjack screen.